Got over 100 in here already, doing pretty good. Not much of a singer. I'm more of a shower singer, though, so. No, I don't think Apple makes waterproof iMacs yet. Hop on up, Tracy. You guys can hear me all right, correct? Cool, yeah. I will be here all 2 hours. I can bug you guys for 2 hours, hopefully. Well, right now I just brought my water. I didn't know what the, I guess, code was going to be tonight, if we were going to be allowed to drink adult beverages on camera or not, so I was just keeping it PG. I will be drinking Coors Light or any other type of beer they got down there in Florida. Sounds good, man. Not till the end, Chappie. Jesse or Chris, when you guys should hop up here too. That Paul Fest? Sorry, somebody was asking if we're actually going to see Paul. Are you talking about at Paul Fest? No, Ron Paul won't be here. Uh, the guest list is Tracy Diaz, she just hopped up, Josh Tolley, Amanda Billy Rock, and Julie Borowski and T-Mott. They're all going to be stopping in soon.
Hey everybody, how you all doing? This is gonna be fun. I'm excited. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing tonight, Tracy?
Wow, doing well today. Very good day today.
What's the agenda of this evening? Talk about liberty and just talk about what's going on in the movement right now, Paul Fest, all the other events that are taking place in the next couple of days, and just basically setting the goal. I mean, we all know what the goal is, but we just need to make sure everyone knows we're all on the same page.
Lawyers for On Call is quite interesting, guys. I don't know if you checked out their site. Hey, Josh.
Hello.
Howdy, Josh.
Hey, buddy.
How you doing?
Hot. Very, very hot. It's like 108. And I'm a little loud, evidently.
You had such a great show today, man. Did anyone listen to Josh's show today?
The answer to that should be yes, everybody. How do I turn down my volume? I'll just talk quieter.
What's this great news from Germany that I see somebody talking about down there? I think they're damn good, King John.
So, if anyone didn't catch it today on the Lawyers for On Call Facebook group, did anyone happen to see what happened there? They pretty much disavowed themselves or dissolved themselves, and they're not working for the lawsuit any longer.
Really?
Lots of controversy there. Richard Gilbert posted a message. I'll actually go there and read it to you verbatim. And it's public record, so I'm not spreading gossip or anything like that. I'm just reading what you guys all might not know is there. If my computer would work. He basically said Pat Jack caused a lot of different problems and stole some paperwork and then blackmailed them and just craziness. Hold on. Okay, clarification. This is Richard Gilbert, the lawyer behind the lawsuit. You will be kept informed as always. To protect the plaintiffs, it is necessary for the plaintiffs to remain independent of any organization. Here is some background why. Pat Jack of the former executive committee stole documents, including legally related documents to the case, when the executive committee was disbanded. Disbanded. Pat Jack refused to turn over the documents on demand and tried to use the stolen documents in a blackmail attempt against the legal team in exchange for a prominent position with the legal team. Of course, I refused to even discuss the matter with this thief, and the information is being turned over to the Department of Justice. I and David had copies of all documents, but Pat Jack did not know this. In addition, there have been too many postings by people and lawyers for On Call that are disruptive to the case. Sometimes these people use anonymous names. We must always act to protect the plaintiffs. Finally, the public has become confused about who represents the plaintiffs. Lawyers for On Call is not an attorney of record. We must avoid any confusion as to who speaks for the plaintiffs. Actually, you will probably notice very little difference. I'll keep you informed as before. There are so many wonderful people here who have been supportive, and I hope to continue to have your support. I want to emphasize that you will notice little difference as we go forward. Yeah. There you go.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes, you should definitely go to Fall Fest in Tampa. Fall Festival is going to be incredible. As a matter of fact, not to do this right now, but at 9 o'clock when this wonderful show is over, I have the entire board from Fall Fest on my show tonight with a bunch of amazing announcements. Amazing. So everyone pop over to Liberty Chat when you're done over here and take a look. There are a bunch of questions. Hey!
Oh, yay. Hi.
How you doing?
She's
I'm on an
great.
iPad and I don't think it's working very well.
Lots of lag.
She must be on 3G.
You. Dang.
She's so pretty. Gosh.
You could hear Tolly laughing in the background when her audio came back through.
Now I hear Matt.
Yep.
Yes, I believe that's it. So pretty. Gosh.
Dang it. I have like. Yep. I have 5 bars on that signal breaking up.
Oh, this is gonna stink. I really wanted to talk to her. Even if she uses earplugs, I'm not sure it would matter because she's got about a 15 to 30-second lag. But you guys don't mind looking at her, right?
She randomly moves
How's everybody
everyone.
doing?
Randomly moves everyone.
Oh, that was faster.
Dang it.
No, she's better now. That was only like 3 seconds.
That's funny.
So,
Okay, I'm gonna try to drive to a Starbucks. I'm gonna try to drive to a. I need to get. Don't tell. I'm about to. Really embarrassed. I need Wi-Fi. Okay. Starbucks and
so guys,
there's Starbucks everywhere.
we're getting pretty close to Tampa. We'll wait for this.
I feel like T-Mont right now.
Oh, man. Oh, Brad, I'm glad to hear there's no GMO in your grass. I'm glad to hear there's no GMO in your grass.
So Amanda, can you use the Wi-Fi at Starbucks with your iPad and then come back on?
So we're still waiting for 2 people, right?
No, they were here a few hours ago. They were on, and then they decided to leave. I'm just kidding. They decided to leave.
I can't really hear you guys. I'm sorry. This is so embarrassing. Somebody's calling me. Hi, I'm on it. I just don't think my signal's strong enough, so I'm trying to like find a Starbucks or something. Okay. Okay.
John, maybe for now, I would just drop her down.
Okay.
Sure.
So we have about how many months now? Two months until the convention, right?
No, not even. Not even. About a month and a half.
Right, right. And what do you think Vern's going to do with the $3.3 million he's got sitting in the bank? Anyone?
Well, it comes down to we don't really know what that strategy is. That strategy that Doug Weed talked to us about, but didn't really talk to us about. So whatever that strategy is, I'm sure they're going to use it towards that. I mean, he's running a debt-free campaign, so that's some pretty big cannons when you don't have any debt.
Pretty good stuff. Someone's yelling that we're not answering the questions in the chat, so let's just answer the questions in the chat. So people
Sounds fun. Let's do it.
Go ahead, shoot them out, guys.
How are y'all today? Oh, thanks, Mitt Romney. We're all great.
I love Steve Parent.
Was that a statement or a question?
Somebody, Steve asked me to say I loved him, so.
Oh, I heard that actually you're engaged to Julie. That was the rumor.
Who's engaged to Julie? Matt is?
No. I broke up with her last week. Now it's the lawlessness.
Oh, gotcha.
PC.
Oh.
Should libertarians have worldwide connections? Why wouldn't libertarians have worldwide connections? I mean, are you talking financing worldwide connections or friends everywhere? Because liberty seems to be a message that is spreading everywhere. Even pointed out in Electable how it's a growing global movement.
It's definitely worldwide. It definitely is. We have people in here right now from Canada, from Australia, from Greece. We have people from Sweden and Norway, and they all love to hear about liberty. Oh, Romania.
And I know there's a huge liberty contingent growing in New Zealand too. It's kind of refreshing to see New Zealand growing.
New Zealand's the one that kicked out the bankers. They said, "Get the hell out of here." Right? Isn't that New Zealand?
Iceland. Iceland.
Oh,
Maybe it'll just be an island thing. They'll just start kicking them off of islands.
They're making a libertarian island. I believe Peter Thiel is behind that as well.
Yep.
That's going to be pretty damn cool. I'll go there.
Do you know where that island's supposed to be?
Someplace where there are no laws.
It's going to be mobile, and it's going to be in international waters for that purpose, yeah. But how, there's an interesting side question. How does the Sea Treaty, which is going through the UN and is being promoted by a lot of our politicians, how is that going to affect, let's say that they do build an island, how would that affect that since we're going to lose sovereignty over most of the Earth's water then?
Wow. I guess they just move when that happens.
Well, and that's part of the problem. That's part of the Global Agenda 21 is the UN wants to claim territorial authority over the oceans. Right now, once you get, depending on the country, but for us, I believe it's 200 miles. Once you get 200 miles off the coast, it's now international waters. But they want that to fall under UN jurisdiction. So once that happens, there would be no international waters at that point. It would just be global UN waters.
So then if you guys actually opted out of the UN, how would you have any rights to that land then, Like, what if America opted out and you're an American citizen? Could you still move there and live there?
That's a great question. I guess a lot of it would depend on what rights America then also would have in those international waters if we decided to opt out. And I think that's something that really needs to be addressed from a UN perspective. I mean, since the beginning of the UN, we've been kind of running the show because it's been our money, our land, and all that sort of stuff. But the UN is getting more global endorsements from growing powers and less from us. So is there ever going to be a point where this UN creation turns around and bites us in the butt more than it already has? But I mean, from a a sovereignty standpoint, even if we wanted to, at what point is it too late?
Someone's asking, what are the Massachusetts delegates going to do?
Vote their conscience.
Do they even get to go?
Oh. You know, if I was a Massachusetts delegate, I would go anyway. Make them keep you out. I mean, just show up. Be like, no.
Just show them the papers that you had in the first place, and I mean, I don't know. I would just go from there.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about Rand Paul endorsing Mitt, and have you seen the talk with Ben on it?
Seen the what on it?
Talk with Ben Swat, I'm assuming?
It's a non-issue. Pure and simple. It's just it's a non-issue. People can get mad about it, but we're not voting for Rand Paul, so it doesn't matter.
Doug Weed, when we did the interview, remember, Josh, he addressed this for a good long time.
He did, yeah.
Brought it up on his own, actually. Pretty much said that he did it so that he could run for president in 2016.
Right.
How to play party politics, how to toe the party line, so to speak. But for right now, all intents and purposes, for the next month and a half, I really don't give a rat's behind what he does. It has nothing to do with what we're doing.
Well, and there's so many variables there, it's not even funny. I mean, is Romney going to win? At this point, Romney has almost a double-digit lead in most of the swing states. If Romney does win, then he's obviously going to run for that second term in 2016. After that, most likely you would see whoever his VP candidate is run. So we're looking at 2, 3, 4 election cycles before Rand would even be an option. And that's if the establishment in its good graces decides to give him an opportunity to run in the first place. We have to remind people that, yeah, Matt is absolutely right. Right now it's a non-issue. Besides that, the GOP doesn't like this guy. They spent money to campaign against him in his GOP race. So to think that one endorsement taken away from his father is going to put him in the good graces, if there is some political strategy there, it was done by a political idiot. So you really have to take it with a grain of salt and not let it dictate our actions, because that's exactly what it was for. He even kind of hinted at that in the endorsement. He said, you know, my dad has a lot of supporters. They think they rule the internet, and maybe they do. But through this endorsement, blah, 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 blah. So he thinks that that's how this process works, and that's how we got here, and it's not. And that's what we need to keep reminding people. This is a movement that has now grown beyond the political game. It's our game, and if they want to win it, then they need to play our game. Or at least that's how it should happen.
T-Mop's here.
T-Mop.
I didn't know he looked like a Mike. I always thought he was, maybe he's not.
Well, him and Amanda look alike.
They're twins.
Can you hear us?
Are you here, T-Mop?
Maybe he's having a Richter issue. If you are pushed to talk, hold the talk button the whole time instead of just tapping it once.
Karen, I missed your question. If you could type it one more time. All right, so let's just go for the questions still while we're waiting for the rest of the guests to get here. More questions. Does anyone know? I'm not positive or apprised of this. The Texas results. Did we get the final results from Texas?
I've never seen them. They haven't released them, and normally that's a good sign for us then.
Yeah, exactly.
Trusty Google. No, there will not be another debate.
No.
You should. I
Yeah,
wish. I would love to have a one-on-one debate with those two. Of course, Newt Gingrich would probably unsuspend his campaign just to come in and kill time, so we would never actually have a true debate.
Matt, you actually interviewed Mitt Romney last week, right?
You know what I did? It was a pretty good one-on-one sit-down interview. A lot of Ron Paul supporters didn't like it, but I thought that Romney was pretty honest in the end, actually. Humor.
There have been some private currencies that have been attempted in the United States, but they carted off to jail when they figure out who starts them. So, not too much. People trade silver up in New Hampshire at the Free State Project, but that's not really a currency that's accepted everywhere.
There actually is somebody who's talk about the pastor's endorsement. I think the guy's name is Stephen Andrews, but give me 1 second quick. I have the link actually. Okay. It's actually, he's like one of the biggest, he's the president of the Christian Ministries, Pastor Stephen Andrew. He actually wrote that all the Christians need to get behind Ron Paul because he's the only Christian running in the race. He's saying that Mitt Romney and Barack Obama are not Christian. He's saying he's saying Romney is a Mormon, and where's it say anything about... Oh, he's actually claiming that Obama is a Muslim atheist or that he is the Antichrist. Those are the exact words in this. It's a PolicyMike.com article, so it's pretty interesting, I guess.
He's a Muslim atheist? That's kind of...
An oxymoron?
Yeah.
Here's exactly what it says. Romney is a Mormon, which some contend is a religion that is opposite to or even anti-Christian. Obama is a devout Christian, but scores of conspiracy theories have surrounded the president, claiming he is a Muslim, atheist, or that he is the Antichrist.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
I don't know. I'm not voting for Ron Paul because he's a Christian. I'm voting for him because of his message. You know, we can't impose our religious views on everyone in the United States just because we believe it's correct.
That is true, and there's still a large contingent of voters who do vote that way. So for a lot of people, understanding what religion the candidate is does play a role. And should it? Probably not. But the fact of the matter is it does. So there's those people who, in a recent Pew Research poll, 4 out of 10 couldn't identify the religion of the president. And from a PR standpoint, that's pretty bad. Especially in his first 100 days, they kept making the point, hey, he hasn't attended a church yet. So when you're going for certain voting blocks, you want to capture that attention. And obviously you don't want to fake it. So you want to be who you are, and that's why we love Ron Paul. But from a PR perspective, when the campaign fails to identify the religion, or the other campaign fails to talk about theirs, it's actually an indication that religion is playing a very big role in this. Because if you go back 4 years ago, the talk was all about, hey, Mitt Romney's a Mormon, and they wear weird underwear and all that sort of stuff. This time around, neither campaign is trying to talk about religion because they don't want it to come up.
Sorry you're bored, Go. See you later.
I don't really think that it's something that you can attack on as religion because, I mean, it's plain and simple in the Constitution. There's a separation of church and state, and you don't use those two things against each other. You can't just say that he's a Muslim, so he would be a bad president because in his religion, women are objects. So I think that you just kind of need to separate the two and just be pure about it,
Yeah, but there's two issues with that, Matt. The first one is separation of church and state isn't actually in the Constitution. It was in a letter written to the Danbury Baptists by Thomas Jefferson. So there's a little, but beyond that, it doesn't say you can't vote for somebody because of their religion either. So you have a bunch of people who don't understand liberty, don't understand freedom, don't even understand what the 4th of July was about, and then the media tells everybody, well, he's a bad XYZ religion, and instead of thinking from a constitutional perspective or freedom liberty perspective, they just take that information and decide upon it. And so the establishment knows that uneducated voters are going to vote on emotional responses, and religion creates an emotional response. So they either play to that benefit or avoid it to their detriment. But that's why that religion comes into play every election cycle.
Is Ron Paul on the ballot in Tampa?
Well, we didn't really get a clear answer to that, and I don't think we will until the RNC actually prints up the ballot. Because until then, it's kind of off our hands, and that's kind of why we need to focus on impacting the people that are going and affecting change between now and then, because it's almost as if we want to respond to whatever they're doing, as opposed to the game plan that we need to run. We need to take advantage of Rule 38, Rule 40, federal law, rule of conscience, like all these sort of things, and just advance it regardless of what they do. If he's not on the ballot, stand up for him anyway. If he is on the ballot, vote for him anyway. So just continue to run your game plan till its completion.
Can they continue to, do they have to nominate him from the floor if he's not on the ballot, correct?
Correct.
And when that happens, it needs to be at least a 2/3 majority of the delegates that are there.
Well, correct, but based on how they're going to count that 2/3, kind of makes you want to look at places like Missouri and Maine and Georgia. Are they going to do it?
Oh.
We have someone down there that thinks the 3.3 million is for a third-party run. You think it's too late for that?
We lost Josh again. I don't think that Ron Paul will run third party. I really don't think he'll do that. He has to be, there are a lot of really important rules even as far as the write-in goes in certain states. You have to pay to be a write-in candidate. You have to get signatures to be a write-in candidate. You have to apply to be a write-in candidate. So in your state, if that stuff's not done by the time the election comes around, if for some strange reason, something goes wrong down in Tampa and you want to write him in, your vote won't count anyway towards anything really. So that's something to think about.
But also in the same breath, don't let that scare you away from doing what you think is right either, because they're going to use that. They're going to say, well, he can't win anyway, so you might as well vote for the lesser of two evils. And don't let that scare you. What I would love to see. Well, I won't even get to that. I'll just stay quiet on that until...
We can't really say anything until, I don't want to even think past the convention.
Right, exactly.
The thing I want to do is concentrate on getting there and everybody that's been working their asses off, doing what they've been working their asses off to do.
Right.
And just focus on that, like tunnel vision.
Yep.
Somebody was asking who counts the votes down in Tampa. Isn't it right on the floors where they actually hold the votes and then they actually count them down there too?
Well, it depends. Yeah, yes, but it depends on how they decide to count that.
So if we get the 2/3 majority, we can actually I want to vote with my hand. Here's how I'm voting, and hopefully do a count out loud at least, so you can't go in some dark room and stuff your ballot.
That would be ideal.
I think they do it two ways, by visual and then by paper ballot, which are then counted on the floor in front of everybody.
I just hope there's a lot of transparency when it comes down to Tampa, just get a fair shake at least.
I really think that there's going to be more transparency at this convention than any other convention in history, because there are too many of us, and too many of us are going, and too many of us are media, and too many of us have really good spots down there to take a look at everything that's going on. So, and
there's a lot of international pressure on this convention as well, because this is a message that is gaining steam. I mean, Ron Paul has a huge amount of supporters in other nations, and they want to know what's going on as well. So the last thing America wants, especially as we're trying to ride this Arab Spring wave of spreading democracy, is to appear that we're not, democratic in our election process for the republic. So, yeah.
So the parliamentarian in the room is saying not to trust the paper ballot ever, that a roll call vote is really the only way that you'll get a legitimate answer and everyone's vote will be counted. Hey, you.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
T-Mont, you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
How you doing
We can
tonight?
hear
Sorry,
you.
it took me a minute. Yeah, likewise. Just sitting back here checking you guys out. I tell you, we came to the movies, my wife and my youngest child, and they're watching a later shot into an earlier show, so I'm outside in my car on my Wi-Fi, so I don't have video because I left my webcam at home. But hey, I'm here, guys.
Are you
That
ever
is awesome.
in the car?
I'm sorry?
Are you ever not in your car?
Yeah, when I sleep at night. But yeah, I spend a lot of time in my car.
Look to your left or right. Is Amanda Billy Rock next to you?
To my left is Kadashan. No, now it's new user 6811.
Am I here now?
Hey, there you are.
Hey.
Somebody's looping back the sound.
That's Amanda.
My sound isn't good?
You have an echo.
Okay. I'm actually sitting inside a Starbucks. Yeah.
So quickly, does anybody have any questions for Amanda now that
Amanda, do you think Ron Paul can win?
You know, I have a friend I was talking to the other night, and he was like, the delegates are going to come through for us. The delegates are going to come through for us. And yeah, I think he could. If the delegates grow a conscience, yeah.
What about
T-Mont, what about you?
Of course, I think Ron Paul can win. That's why I'm doing this thing, pal.
Amanda, John wants you to check your text messages.
What about you? I think Ron Paul can win.
My phone is in my car. Is that okay? Hi, who's the girl in the glasses? I don't know you.
I'm Kadosha Fish. We have a show on Monday night here, the Liberty Livestream Team Show.
Okay, that's you. Okay, I know about that show. Okay, cool.
Amanda, you're supposed to turn down the volume on your iPad so it reduces the echo.
What about now?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm actually inside a Starbucks. I think I need to, like... It's better?
Yeah.
They did a great job in Nevada. They did a
She's on the move.
Now she lost her Wi-Fi.
She's Billy rocking and rolling.
I've never done this before, can you tell?
And he knows what the deal is for Tampa. Good, Steve.
Okay, we got a lot of dead space. Let's talk about Supreme Court. Let's talk about Supreme Court. Who's feeding back my audio?
Ah.
Click on Amanda and go to interact and then lower her volume down.
I can't do this.
Okay, let's go back to
that
T-Mon's
better?
question.
All right, so Tima, let's talk about going the Supreme Court decision on Obamacare. That's what you want to talk about, right?
Yes, ma'am. Let me just throw in my take on that. The Supreme Court gave us a way out. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. The swing vote guy didn't have the cojones to do the right thing. But he still had enough gumption left within him to say, I need to give the American people a way out. But I just don't want to go up against the press. But I'm going to give them a way out. And this is what many folk are missing in this. He has given us a way to defeat this. There are a couple of things. Now, I don't know if many of you saw, I think the guy's name is Ben Swan, his video. Essentially, the Senate cannot pass new texts. And the bill that they adopted for Obamacare was the version that came out of the Senate. That's number one. That on the surface may make it an invalid law. Secondly, Obama ran on the fact that this was not a tax. Americans hate new taxes. Obama swore this is not a tax. But the justice said you can keep this if you list it as a tax. So if we, the American people, will stand up and call it for what it is, hey, you lied to us, we're going to hold you on this. You have plenty of grounds to overturn this, to send it back. And folk were asking me, well, how can you overturn this? It's already been heard by the Supreme Court. Hey, these are new facts. This is a new day. All you got to do is stand up and present it. But I'm going to tell y'all something. Folk keep forgetting, and I tell them all the time, Obama didn't do this by himself. He had help. He had both the Democrats and the GOP that allowed this to get through. Now, if we really want it turned around, really it's going to be up to the American people, because guess what? The American peoples are the ones who sent those bastards to Washington. We either got to take them out or threaten to take them out to get them to turn it around. Now, that's my take on it. So what say you?
I have a take. I'll go next. My take is that we're actually dealing with multiple issues here. The first one is that just because it passes the Supreme Court doesn't really mean anything. All it means is that it can now be implemented as law and policy. Any law or policy can be removed. Supreme Court doesn't dictate what can stay and what can't stay. That's what the houses are for. Now, with that said, we have an interesting situation where Justice Roberts also hinted at a Commerce Clause connection. So we have this opportunity before us to kind of, as Timon said, wake people up and get them to this idea of, hey, we can get rid of this thing, because nothing is forever binding. Look at all the terrible laws that we had that were quote-unquote constitutional, but we got rid of them anyway. It was constitutional to keep Tracy from voting. So we overruled that. So just because they say something is one way doesn't mean it has to be. The other thing we really have to worry about here is the fact that John Roberts might have been a conservative genius. And a lot of people aren't talking about this, but because he said it was a legally viable option if they declared a tax, it allows for two things: a full repeal and a conservative president. Because Timot's right, the people don't want this new tax. They don't want this form of health care. So you have the opportunity to offer that full repeal. If they would have said that this part was illegal, but the rest was legal, then we would have repealed the illegal part, and the legal part would have had to stay on a separate repeal process. So it allowed a window for a full repeal or no repeal at all. The thing we really have to be careful, though, is since this passed, Mitt Romney has been soaring, and his money has been just coming in like coffers, man. He raised $3 million in the first 24 hours of the Supreme Court decision. It just was revealed earlier today that he raised $100 million last month. So this whole idea of, okay, we need to repeal it, might have been an opportunity for those who want Romney to be president to almost guarantee that he was going to get in there. Because now the people are flocking to him, even if they hate him, just for the idea of, we have to repeal, we have to repeal. And I have heard from so many Ron Paul supporters who say, you know what, well, I do want Ron to win, but now that there's this Obamacare, we need to do whatever we have to do. And again, it's putting that fear in front of people's eyes. So we have to stay focused, let people know that the only way to truly repeal this thing would be Ron Paul, because the fear I have is, coming through in November, if Mitt Romney does win, we're not going to see a full repeal. We'll see an adaptation. We'll hear something like, well, we couldn't get the whole thing repealed, but this is the GOP's solution. And it's always one of those situations where they raise gas from $2 to $4, then bring it back down to $3.50 and make us happy because it's not $4 anymore. When in reality, we're still going to lose a freedom, we're still going to get a tax. So it's very scary waters, and we're easily manipulated as a voter base. That's my take.
I actually read an article the other day that, the conservatives are not very happy with Romney's answer, his response to the Obamacare thing, and people are talking about it down there. He's saying repeal and replace, and they're worried about him debating Obama or answering questions about it because, hello, he kind of created it in the first place. So, it's interesting that the party isn't even behind him. The Republican Party is behind him regardless of what he says. It doesn't matter. They don't trust him.
I saw a video this morning, and I can't find it again. It's kind of making me mad. It's talking about how there are these state exchange programs for healthcare. And if your state does not actually implement and get a state exchange for the healthcare, that law then would not take place, and you cannot actually find for not getting the insurance. And I really wish I could find that video. I've been looking up. Maybe if any of you guys have seen it down below in the chat, let us know. But it made a lot of sense, basically saying that if you don't actually implement it in your state, the federal government, therefore, cannot tax you for it.
Hey, I think we have Amanda back for real this time. She's got headphones. Are you back? Can you talk now?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes? You
Yes.
can?
Yeah.
We can. You're good.
My God, it's a miracle.
What is your take on the health care bill being passed in the Senate?
It's just, I think as long as people believe that government needs to be in healthcare at all, we're just going to keep digging ourselves deeper and deeper into this yucky hole. And so Obamacare is just like deeper into the hole.
Down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Tracy, what about you?
Me?
Yep.
Well, the whole thing is a big disaster. Doctors are already saying that they're going to have a hard time practicing. We're going to lose the standard of health care we have today. We're going to lose good students going into medical field. We're we're going to lose a ton of money, the taxpayers, because of the bureaucracy and the inefficiency of big government, which we all know is very inefficient. We're going to have the middle class paying more out of pocket for something that other people will obtain, and we're going to have 100% more IRS agents breathing down our backs. Why an IRS agent should be implementing a healthcare bill is beyond me. That should speak for itself. I think it's disgusting. It's sad. It needs to be changed, and it needs to be changed by tort reform rather than, you know, the federal government again opening up its arms and kind of grabbing more power and more power and more power. And there's a number of different ways that we can address the problem of healthcare without involving the government in this broad of a way. And that's my thought.
I think that you can kind of rate just the quality of Obamacare. When Obama actually puts in the bill, it excludes him, his family, and any of the other legislators. I think if they don't even want to be included in their own universal health care program, evidently it's not that damn good. So if they don't want to even partake in it, I think that should be a red flag right there that, hey, this quality is going to suck, the speed of it is going to suck, and if they don't want it, if it's not good enough for them, it's not good enough for us. Q, what do you think?
Well, our state has decided. Our governor and politicians say they don't want it, but they've gone around behind the scenes and tried to accept Obamacare and made it sound as though they're not accepting it. And so obviously we don't like it. But in our little town, it'll cause a lot of problems because we talked to a doctor recently, and I think she said over 50% of the staff will quit once it's implemented. So it's not going to do anything to help any sort of health care. It's just going to, cause more problems. And there's already a shortage of doctors around the entire state, and I'm sure it's like that, a lot of places.
Good stuff.
And the other thing too. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the other thing too is the lost revenue in tax income and other streams. You're gonna see a lot of cash bases like cab companies or coffee shops or whatever not claim income now just to offset the cost of what they had to do. So you're gonna have a drop in corporate tax revenue in addition to the tax increase and the debt increase, and then that's something people are kind of missing as well, since it's not a direct cause and effect.
And another thing, too, that we have to worry about is these small, like, mom-and-pop shops that employ, like, say, 55, 60 people. If you get your employed number down below 50, you do not have to follow this tax, basically. You're not going to be implemented with Obamacare. So what that means is you're going to see many mom-and-pop shops start firing people. So not only are you not going to have health care, you're not going to have a job. So you're not even going to have a chance to pay for the Obamacare that would be mandated on top of you. So it's just not a very smart thing for mom and pop stores. The lower income people are going to suffer from it the most. Like Obama said himself, he said it best. Mandating a person to get health care is like mandating a poor person to buy a house. You can't afford it in the first place. So how is someone who can't afford it in the first place going to pay that tax?
You guys think state nullification could play any role in this?
Yes, definitely. Nullification has to be. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, what?
Okay, Amanda, then Tima.
Oh. Go ahead, Amanda.
No, we might have lost her. Okay, Tima, what say you?
Okay. State nullification. We've had one state to stand up and say they aren't going to do it. But see, here's the catch, folks. There's not much difference between Obama and Mitt Romney. And where am I going with this? State nullification will work.
Can you guys hear me? Oh, hey
Yes.
T-Mod, how are you?
Hey, how are you? I'm good. State nullification will work for states where the governors have the cojones to stand up against it. But we have to remember there's another dynamic taking place. It's called the group dynamic. Those states that are largely Democratic, they are going to want to support the president. Those states that are not are going to want to go against it. But then here comes the trick. There's not much difference between Mitt Romney and Obama. So Mitt Romney will do an end run around to find folks. Okay, look, we're going to modify it this way just so that you play ball. I'm telling you, this is the same circus. All they do is trade clowns and repackage the message that they present only to get the same end result. And that's what we are not getting in this whole mess. And I'm going to say it again. I've already said it. This is largely due to the apathy of the American people. But it's going to take you, the group of guys that we got right here, group of guys that we have here, man, we need to start replicating and screaming in the wilderness. We got to remember, Ron Paul screamed in the wilderness for 34 years. And we just, look, Ron Paul was out there 34 years. He got some notoriety in 2008. Hell, I just found out about him last October. I'm trying to figure out where the hell was I? Was I in a daze? Was I high on drugs? And I don't even use drugs. How could I have missed this? That is how hard our job is. An all uphill battle to wake up Americans and get them to see what our politicians have been doing to us. This is why I stand so firmly and I say there is no one, no matter who they are, that we should allow to get in the way of what is best for ourselves, our families, our loved ones. Hence the video that I just put out about a man that I love. Of course, I wasn't really excommunicated, but, I left voluntarily. But, you'll get the gist of what I'm saying. We are letting our politicians screw us. We got to stand up and stop them from doing what they are doing.
We're growing in numbers. It's happening every day. People, the overreach is so great at this point that people are starting to really understand what's going on. Even with Fox News, some things they can't even stop, not report on. They have to report some things. New York, for example, and the soda ban, all kinds of stuff going on here. People are waking up and realizing the grasp around us is getting tighter, and nobody really likes it.
I think it's a sign that we are gaining ground and we are winning. We are waking up more people. Back in 2008, you didn't hear that much about Ron Paul. You heard a little kind of blimps every once in a while on the radar. Now it's all the time. Ron Paul is messing up things for the GOP. It's Ron Paul is racking up delegates. You would never hear that back in 2008. His votes have quadrupled in almost every single place but Nevada, and that's just because there's complete fraud in Nevada. The movement is where we are really taking place right now. This grassroots movement is what is going to sustain us through all this. No matter what happens, I still predict Ron Paul is going to win this election, but even if he doesn't, it's not over, because that's when we start in the lower government and we work our way up, gutting out all the bad people, putting in the good liberty and freedom-minded people in there, and eventually have them work themselves out of a job, because the government has shrunk so much. We don't have to worry about the government ever infringing on our rights, because we know that we have the right people in there. So Ron Paul would be a great step. But
Matt, you need to join me in ground wars, buddy, because that is exactly the strategy that we have to employ.
If you guys are looking for Liberty candidates that are near you guys, that you want to vote for in local elections, that you might not be sure who they are because they don't have budgets for a lot of advertising and stuff like that, you can go to libertycandidates.com, and they are vetted Liberty candidates. Their applications are right there on the website for you to see the answers to the questions they had to answer to become a sponsored Liberty candidate. And you'll get a really good idea. There are hundreds of applications coming in from people that are really concerned, that want to run locally for office and start to affect change from the ground up rather than from the top down. And both need to happen, but working at the ground and locally is also just as important as electing a president, because if you don't have the Congress to support the president, there's a lot of things the president can't get accomplished.
Well, in a lot of ways, Tracy.
Look, y'all
I
need
think,
space.
go ahead. I was going to say, in a lot of ways, Tracy,
Go ahead.
the idea behind getting local candidates, in some ways, is even.
Josh frozen.
Yeah, it looks like he's frozen.
All right, T-Mont, you're up.
Oh, okay. Yes, we are working on a thing. I'm with a cat out of London by the name of Rudy, a guy by the with Paul Bot Radio, Carlos Beltran, Diana Kane, Michael Jam Smith. We have put together a program called Ground Wars. I have been saying all along, and I'm going to repeat this again, the president doesn't do it by himself. He has both the Democrats and the Republicans helping him. Therefore, if Ron Paul gets elected, Ron Paul might find himself in a deadlock with the only tool in his arsenal is that he's used for 34 years, which got him the name Dr. No, simply vetoing. But we don't want him caught up in that scenario. Well, how do we fix that? We need other Liberty candidates on both sides. And some say, well, we need to focus on getting Liberty candidates for just the Republican Party, because it's the Republican Party supporters, so to speak, who speak of liberty. But we need Liberty candidates in both parties. Ground Wars is about trying to find individuals, no matter what their party, because I envision rendering party politics moot, because George Washington said, if you allow parties to take hold in this country, that will be the end of this country. Beware of parties. We need to make parties.
Well, I think we lost T-Mont for a second.
Dynamic, a thing of the past, and the only way to do that is for us to start. This past Monday, Bert Haskell, a Democrat, who basically is going on the record with this. We have here on tape, which you'll be held accountable for. So if you get up and do anything contrary to that, we know what to do for you when your next election comes. So this is what we need to start doing, and by doing this, we the people start to vet our candidates and not allow the press to do it for us, which is what we have been doing. We have accustomed to being spoon-fed and going with whoever has the best line, and we allow them to present to us who needs to be the next president. When the press started putting out, oh, well, Ron Paul's unelectable. John Gibson, oh, well, let's not talk about Ron Paul. He's unelectable. Bill O'Reilly, and all of those cats are people that I used to listen to. Boy, where the hell was I? All right, anyway, all right, somebody else.
So what I was saying was we need to focus on these local politicians because of exactly what T-Mont said. We need to get to this point where we create that buffer gap between us and the federal government. Federal politicians have this ability to take themselves away from the people. See, and you're not going to be able to approach a senator, a congressman, a president like you will your county executive or your county sheriff who lives 4 streets over and 1 block left. And the ability to impact your local races, it also gives us the ability to get rid of those party politics. For some reason, every 4 years during an election cycle, we think, okay, now it's time for a third party. Now it's time for a third party. What we need to realize is we need to get the third parties winning city and county seats. Then we get the third parties winning state seats. Then those third parties will naturally have a position at the table for the federal election. And we've kind of believed the lie. They told us that we don't like things in our community, so we have to fix the county. We don't like things in the county, so before we can fix that, we have to fix the state. Well, you can't fix your state until you fix the nation. Oh, and now they're telling us you can't fix the nation until you fix the globe. And we have it bass-ackwards. It is completely bass-ackwards. You just like in an airplane, if an airplane is going to go down, I use this example a lot. They tell you, put your oxygen mask on first. Well, your oxygen mask is your house and your community. So you need to focus on what you're doing in your community. Because let me tell you something, T-Mot's absolutely right. Let's say we have Ron Paul in there. Boom, Ron Paul becomes president. And boom, he can veto anything. However, there's still this federal machine that is in process during his entire campaign. Most people don't even know that there's 12 levels above top secret that the president doesn't even have access to. So it's not like we're electing a king. If we were electing Ron Paul king and he can say, okay, boom, you're done, that's one thing, but we're not, nor should we. So we have to make sure that we concentrate on the buffer as well. We have a tendency to focus so much on the president that we don't get these constitutional sheriffs that we really, truly need. And like we're seeing in states like Massachusetts, they're actually getting rid of them because we're not paying attention.
That's why when Ron Paul didn't endorse Sheriff Mack, I was absolutely floored that he didn't.
Well, not only that, but Joseph Biden's son, who is the Attorney General in Delaware, he is stripping sheriffs from their arrest powers in the state of Delaware. Meanwhile, we're not really talking about it. Well, that is huge. That's ginormous, because we talk about how we need to get sovereignty back to the state level, and when the state starts to defect on us, and we're concentrating on the federal level, even if we fix the federal level and we're in about state sovereignty, and state sovereignty kicks us in the ass, then what do we do? So we need to make sure that we secure our border first, essentially, secure your community and state, and then use that machine to impact the nation. Because when we were set up as 50 individual competing states. And that competition between states ensured a situation of freedom. Because if I didn't offer freedom to my people as governor in Illinois, they could get it from Matt's state that he's a governor of in Iowa or something. So you have that ability to create a culture of freedom. Right now, we are in this, we're so stuck in this position where we think like employees, where we just think, okay, so what do I have to do to get what I want, as opposed to what do I have to do to create what I want? And that has to be the mind shift. Because even when it comes to a lot of us we're expecting Paul to do it. And again, that's not the answer. But before I tell you, I'll just shut up now. Somebody else can go.
How about you, Amanda? What do you think?
Okay, let's go to Q, because Amanda's froze. Q, what say you? Can anybody hear me? Matt, can you hear me?
I hear you, man. I hear you loud and clear. Josh, how you been, man?
I've been good, man. How you been? I still got my beard, by the way. I tell everybody, oh, man, T-Mon complimented my beard.
I'm loving it, buddy. I'm loving it.
T-Mod, I'm starting my show next Wednesday on this website. I'd love to have you on there, too. I think that we should talk about that ground wars thing that you were talking about. I definitely have to check it out. Sounds like something I'd love to get behind and work with you.
Absolutely, man. It's something that all of us are going to have to engage. It's not a T-Mod thing. This is an American thing, and we need you, Matt. We need Josh, Amanda, Kadoshe, however you're Talking Liberty. You know, we need all of us in this speaking, you know, and telling folk, get involved. Let me tell you what's really going on. Listen, My father is 80 years old this come November 1st. My father has been a lifelong Democrat because that's what he has been taught to do, but he's a generation of that because everybody prior to that were Negro used to be Republicans. But when my father came along, he was trained to be a good Democrat because it was told that the Democrats are for the black people. Well, at any rate, I never they would come when I could get 10 years old. My dad is going to vote along with me with Ron Paul. So if I can wake up my nearly 80-year-old father, okay, all you got to do is get folk to listen. Now, I still hadn't reached my mom. And when Obama said that he was supporting gay marriage and doing all this stuff against the church with forcing them to provide birth control, my mom is saying, well, I'm not going to vote. Okay, but I got to get her to vote because not voting is still not the answer. But guys, all of you need to be involved. Imagine if we start supporting a local candidate in Texas, like the sheriff that they're trying to, that state where they're trying to take the power away from the sheriff, or that county rather. Imagine if 1,000 people in all 50 states gave $10 to that guy's campaign. That's the kind of support that I'm talking about. With that kind of power behind us, man, we could revolutionize this country and wouldn't have to shed a drop of blood.
Agreed. Agreed.
I actually said the other day when I was in the Ron Paul Tribune room, if I could, there were like, I don't know, 10,000 or somewhat protesters or yoga, people doing yoga in Times Square. Thousands of them laid out on blankets doing yoga. Okay, that's all nice and good. Yoga's great and everything. But if we could get 10,000 people to go to Times Square and scream about the Federal Reserve, or people that are watching the Lady Gaga concert and put them all in an arena and get them yelling and excited about something that's important. You know, it's sad. I can't even enjoy a concert anymore because I'm sitting here looking around at all these people so excited to see this person singing, and I'm like, there are things going on in this world that need to be fixed, and you guys sitting here cheering for, you know, a musician is not going to fix those things. I feel like we need people to, let's bring yoga mats, pretend we're going to do yoga, and then hold up "End the Fed" signs. And then we'll get all the yoga people there and give them like signs, you know, and everybody can stand up. And just a thought.
Two things real
Yeah,
quick? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Josh.
No. I want to hear from you. You go, Fish.
Now, everyone, just the smallest thing really makes a difference. Just get in and do whatever you can think of, any sort of crazy ideas. You know, we held a rally in our town before our primary. There weren't very many people there, but at least we all got out and we all held signs. People saw us. People were like, oh, you guys are the Ron Paul people, you know, and they had seen us hold signs in the corner for weeks leading up to it. You know, we had a party at our ranch with like over 150 people here this last weekend. And it's just all a matter of being involved, however big or small it might be, and motivating people. So it's, you know, it's really exciting. And then you tell your friends who aren't into politics, and they go, what have you done this summer? Oh, I've gone to a Ron Paul rally. I've gone to the Texas convention. I've gone to the Oklahoma convention. And they look at you like you're crazy, but then it leads into what it's all about. And then you can tell them, you know, well, it's really for Ron Paul and the Liberty Movement, and it gets everyone really excited. So.
Yeah.
Let me throw something else on the table, guys, that we haven't covered, or maybe I hope maybe you guys did talk about it, but the jobs issue. I was listening to a town hall of sorts with some GOP representatives, and they were talking about jobs bills. I have been saying, and I can't for the life of me understand why Americans think that the government creates jobs. Anybody that works for the government, they are being paid by taxpayer dollars to administer government functions. The government does not create jobs. When you create jobs, it is due to capitalism, entrepreneurship, things of that nature. I don't understand why Americans can't grasp that, and this misdirection that Obama is standing in the way, or is there against this jobs bill or that jobs bill. I can't understand why Americans don't grasp that. Can somebody explain, not just to me, but to folks that are listening, why is it that we think that the government creates lasting jobs?
I can
Josh is
answer that.
the person to answer this question.
All right, so the reason why the reason why we are okay with saying, well, okay, I'll create jobs, it kind of goes back to what Fish was saying. We need to wake people up. People don't have anything worth dying for. They have nothing worth fighting for. And when you don't have anything worth dying for, you have nothing to live for. A lot of people on this call or this show, they understand what liberty is, what freedom is. But there are so many millions of people who don't care. They really don't care. You ask them, well, hey, do you care that there's 30,000 drones going to be above your head? Nah, I don't care. And it's because we've created an environment where people have no passion in life, where they don't have anything that they want to achieve, that they have nothing worth defending. And it comes down to, and this is gonna be kind of a little deep here, but it comes down to this idea that we've become an employee mindset mentality. And what Timon just said hits it right on the head. Excuse me. Everybody's searching for jobs. What we should really be searching for is, how do I start a business? How do I start a business? And I know that might sound like, well, how are the two things related? But free enterprise is the fuel for freedom. Study after study after study has shown people who own businesses are more politically engaged because they understand that they have something to lose here. When it comes to an employee, they don't care who gives it to them. They just want it. So they either want to get it from the government, they want to get it from a private employer, they want to get it from a big corporate, 70,000 employee multinational corporation. It doesn't matter. So if we're going to make real lasting change, we have to get back to this point where, one, we teach entrepreneurship. That's a must. Two, we teach passion. People need something worth fighting for. So if you don't have anything, if you think about it, how many people wake up and then they'll go to bed and they'll think, is this all my life is? And then once in a while they'll get involved in a political movement and that won't work out for them, so they'll give up again. So you have to get something in your life worth fighting for. Matter of fact, this book is a 7th grade textbook. How old are you in 7th grade? Maybe 12 or something? I don't know. But you're in 7th grade, however old you are. This is from 1930. Okay? It's less than an inch thick, and it's less than 7 inches long, right? In this book, there are chapters, 7th grade math, how to hire your first employee, how to set up distribution streams, how to pay insurance. And this is actually how we taught math. We gave them something to dream about, something to achieve. We became a nation based on the fact that we could own our lives. It wasn't about religious freedom solely. We had that. That's why, going back to what Matt was talking about earlier, that's why we had the separation of church and state discussion. Because the king didn't mind that there were Danbury Baptists up in Delaware or Vermont or wherever the hell they were. The king didn't care. What he cared about was people owning their own property. They cared about people having a dream and having possession in their life. So what they did was they fought for free enterprise. They fought for liberty, and we need to realize that free enterprise is the fuel. It's the fuel for freedom. And if we lose that, if we just keep talking about, where am I going to get my job? What am I going to do for a job once I get out? Then you have people who don't have anything worth living for. And like I said, I'll shut up. But if you don't have anything worth living for, you have nothing worth dying for, and you're just dead in the water anyway. Now, a real quick follow-up to that is, don't let that bother you, though. The revolution was fought with only 3 to 5% support. So everybody doesn't have to agree. We just have to have those who are in agreement working towards a goal, realizing that you don't win by changing minds. You win by taking ground. And you'll change minds as you take the ground. Okay, I'll shut up for a minute. Everybody else.
Josh, what's the name of that book?
Oh, I wasn't reading down below, sorry. The name of the book is The New Curriculum Arithmetics, 7th grade edition, published in 1930 or 1929, I believe. And the publisher is Leo Buckner. I got this one coincidentally at an auction, so I didn't even, and this was just divine. Julie's here.
Julie, welcome, Julie.
I see her, but I don't hear her.
Can you make your mic louder, Julie?
I have my headphones.
No. It was so funny when they did for like maybe about a couple weeks, King of the Liberty ring on Liberty Chat, which was they put you up against someone and then people vote to see like who's the I don't know exactly what it is. It's like a stupid popularity thing. And they put me up against this beautiful woman over here, Julie. And I'm like, what are you guys, nuts? Like, this is going to embarrass the heck out of me. Like, why would you even do that to me? It was sad. Julie, we can't hear you.
Josh, while we're looking over through this, the cause and like how
Okay.
near the economic growth.
I can't hear you, Matt. I think I'm hearing Tracy and Julie trying to talk.
Somebody was asking how a economic depression starts. What causes it?
Typically a vibe for sovereignty. See, the thing that people don't understand about economics, and I don't care what initials come after their name, all economics is fiscal activity. And when people have control of the money, we get to control the size of the economy. If economic activity stops, the economy shrinks. It's kind of like a balloon. It has to be continuously blown up and it will continue to fly. And if it's not blown up, it'll shrink. So what they do is they have a tendency to manipulate the currency to make your asset or your tool less valuable. Once it becomes less valuable, you get to do less activity with it. Less activity means a shrinking economy. And once you have a shrinking economy, you have this position where they then get to buy sovereignty. And that's what they're really after. They're not after money. They have the money. They print the money, for goodness sakes. What they're after is the sovereignty that they get to buy with it. Now, a really key point to understand, though, is anything that can be used as a weapon against you while it's still in use can be taken away and used as a weapon for you. And that's why they are so hell-bent on destroying the message of free enterprise, because it doesn't matter in the victory sense whether it's a fiat currency or not. Now, obviously, we know we don't want a fiat currency, but as a weapon I'm talking about, it doesn't matter if it's a fiat currency if we understand how to create economic growth. When we know how to create economic growth, we have the ability
to just get it handled as best I could without bothering.
Oh, he's talking, sorry. What we do is we have the ability then to take that economic growth that we develop and use it to buy things that the enemy's buying. Billboards, signs, radio stations, TV stations, buses, all that sort of stuff. So we need to get back to that point where we understand what economic growth is. Here's the really key indicator that we don't know what the economy is. They don't get to dictate what your economic activity is, you do. And if you're in an employment situation, you're always subject to their value of currency. That's why when things like this happen, you always see the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And the poor love to say, well, then it was some sort of scheme that the 1% pulled. Well, it's not. 3 million people, which is 1%, 3 million people did not meet at Denny's last night to come up with a global plan against you. What happened was the people who determined the value of the currency realized that they wanted to use this tool to buy your sovereignty. So they devalued it. So the people who had very little and had no ability to create more just lost their shirts. The people who had the ability to create more didn't really matter what the value was because they understood through free enterprise you get to create as much as you need and want. So that's why the rich, even if they're not associated with some sort of Bilderberg, owl worshiping freak, they still have the opportunity to become more wealthy. And it's only because we didn't understand the process in the first place.
Josh, you're so smart with this stuff.
Yeah, that is absolutely not true.
It's great. It's so funny. Someone said that we look like we're half the Brady Bunch, so I just...
Julie, can you hear us now? Can you talk?
Yeah, can you hear me? I can hear you guys fine.
That's better.
Cool.
Okay.
Barely, though.
We can hear you fine.
Chime in, Julie. Chime in.
What's going on, guys? What are we talking about?
I got you.
What are we talking about? Josh, why don't you sum it up for her in a sec?
Actually, I have no clue what we're really talking about. We're kind of jumping around. Anything that has to do with freedom, liberty, Ron Paul, moving, motivating people, giving people something to fight for as we head towards August and November and January, that sort of stuff. Being molested at the airport.
What happened to me?
No, that's why I said it.
Yeah, it happened to me Sunday. It's gross. First time it happened to me.
Thank you for
Where
remembering
did
that.
it go?
I think he had some bleed over at the moment.
What happened to you at the airport, Julie? I want to hear that story.
Well, I was coming back from VidCon, which is YouTube's annual convention. It's really awesome. But there was only one line at the airport. I was in Orange County, which was weird. 'Cause usually there's like a bunch of lines to go through, but everybody was going through the scanner, and I opted out. And of course, some lady came up to me and, you know, molested me, and it wasn't fun. She touched every part of my body, and that was like the first time that ever happened to me. It was just like, I started to shake. It was just so weird. Ew. But I'm okay now.
It stinks that to travel to a convention to have fun, you have to literally have such a traumatizing experience that you say, I'm okay now.
Yeah.
If that doesn't piss people off, like the people that are like, okay, I don't mind, they're keeping us safe. Like they just said today, if you buy a soda in the airport, they're not allowed, they're going to check the soda when you get to the gate, even though you just bought it. But, and then they say, oh, if you're under 12, you don't have to take your shoes off. But like all these things, they contradict each other and don't make any sense. It's disgusting. What are we going to do about it is the question.
It was weird because people were looking at me weird as I was opting out. I was like, I'm not going through the scanner, and people were like looking at me like, what's wrong with this girl? Why is she not going through the whole process that we're supposed to go through?
Because you don't want as much radiation as a CAT scan when you're trying to, you know.
No.
There are a lot of airports that are starting to. The TSA is actually starting to approve private security companies I believe they did in Florida now. It's taking over in a bunch of different states. They're trying to implement private security companies to run the security. This is funny. And once that happens, the free market, you know, sort of principles will take over, and this kind of thing I don't think will be so flagrant any longer.
It'd be much better if it's privatized.
Hmm?
It'd be much better if it was privatized. This wouldn't happen to people.
Yeah.
Well, they were actually much more successful, too. I mean, we talk about how bad the TSA is now, but when we talk about the TSA now, we don't compare it to what private security was doing before. And private security before actually had a higher success rate of capturing breaches, they call them, than the TSA does. The TSA has had over 20,000 breaches, and in Texas, they actually lost a bag of explosives, and they didn't bother to shut down the airport. Meanwhile, in New York, they found out that the metal detector was turned off, and they had to evacuate everybody and bring aircraft back to the gate. So let me get this straight. You forget to flip on the switch, and we evacuate everybody. You lose a bag of explosives. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be fine. So we have to realize that the TSA has nothing to do with safety, absolutely nothing. To believe this lie that they're keeping you safe just reveals your inability to strategically think. I mean, what's the goal of a terrorist? The goal of a terrorist is to create terror. Well, the TSA just created a terror target by creating a checkpoint or a bottleneck. And they're doing the same thing on the highways. So whenever you have the TSA creating a target, they can't keep you safe. There's this funny SNL skit that y'all can look up. It talks about for 3 ounces of liquid. And the guy raises his, well, can 3 ounces of liquid blow up an airplane? And they're like, well, we're not sure, but we're pretty sure 4 ounces can't. And then they're like, well, what stops you from taking 2 3-ounce bottles? Absolutely nothing. So it just shows that they're not keeping you safe. So we have to get off this mindset, well, at least they're keeping me safe. I don't care if they look at me naked and safe.
I think the terrorists are winning when we lose our rights. That's what they were trying to do in the first place, is to make us live in fear and to lose our rights. And when we have to go through all these just unconstitutional pat-downs and checkpoints, we're losing our rights, even without the terrorists have to do anything.
The terrorists are now being identified as white Americans who love sovereignty or national sovereignty and liberty and the Constitution. That's the who are the terrorists? Ask the government. Who are the terrorists? Define this. I know what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying they're not even giving us a specific group anymore. They can't even tell us who they are.
Or why they need to keep us safe. See, that's the thing we were talking about a little bit ago before Julie joined us. If we don't have anything we're dying for, then they can take away anything. Before, our forefathers would have said, I would have rather died on my feet than live on my knees. Give me liberty or give me death. But now we're like, give me life even if you have to take away the liberty. And that is just messed up. And the reason it's messed up is because we don't understand what freedom is. And you can't understand what freedom is unless you have something in your life that requires freedom. Right now we have so many people who in their lives, they don't require freedom. They have no reason to want it, defend it, or even try to get it back. So until we get to that point, the real fight is getting people to the point where they know they need it. Once people know they need it, then it's a completely different story. Just like they think now they need to watch American Idol or something, people will go to it in droves. When people know they need freedom, they're willing to go towards it. Look what happened with the pink slime beef. We brought them to a point where they knew they didn't need it, so everybody revolted against it, regardless of political party. So we need to get to that point again, where we have a life where people require freedom in order to live it out, and then they're willing to die to get it.
Matt, you had some really good points I think you were about to make, and I'm actually about to jump out of here, so I have to prepare. I have my show at 9 o'clock. I just want to tell everyone real quick. We have the Board of Paul Festival on my show at libertychat.com at 9 o'clock. Almost the entire board is going to be there to answer all of your questions you might have. We're going to make some really, really, really huge announcements. So when this show is over at 9, hop on over to libertychat.com and take a watch. Thanks so much, guys. I'll talk to you soon. And Matt, go ahead and say what you were going to say, because I know it was good. It was stuff. See you soon.
Basically, just what I was going with is the terrorists don't ever have to strike a building, kill a person, harm anybody for them to win. Their goal is to just cause terror. And when our government implements all these other just rules and laws, they're just unconstitutional, and we lose when they take away our rights. So even if they don't attack us, which I believe they never will, because we are probably the world's largest army. I can't remember the Japanese general that said it, but there's a soldier behind every blade of grass in America. No one wants to come on our land and fight us. So they're doing it through
Totally agree with what you just said.
us is then pushed down on us.
Is my speakers not working?
No, we
can hear you just fine.
Okay, sorry.
Fish, what do you think?
Yeah, have you all seen that new document released from Homeland Security about who terrorists are? It talks about like people who want to be self-sufficient and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I made a video about that today, actually, talking about how mostly they're white libertarians, people that are afraid of losing sovereignty, of the expanding, universal government, basically a global government and stuff like that. Basically anything where if you're not for the betterment of the world, you're a terrorist because you only care about America. What about death panels? Go ahead, Josh.
No, we can move on to something else. What's the question? What about death panels?
Somebody just wrote death panels.
Well, you know, what's interesting about death panels is Obama, when he had his celebratory speech about, you know, this is now victory and everybody in America won and your insurance company can no longer deny you because of pre-existing condition and they can't turn you down because of age. He's right in saying that the insurance companies can't, but what people are missing is the fact that the government can't. So death panels are something that are real. They don't, obviously they're not going to call them death panels. It'll be probably resource allocation committees or something. But it's just a natural evolution. You can't not have them when you have a finite resource that has to be distributed equally. You have to have a rationing body.
What do I think about Gary Johnson? I like him on many aspects of his policy and stuff. I just don't agree with him on humanitarian wars. It's just too much of the same for me on that.
I got to meet Gary Johnson down in Texas at the Texas convention, and didn't hear him talk much, but he is pro-choice. So for someone like me who's pro-life, it kind of, you know, answered the question on supporting him.
For the lawsuit by Lawyers for Ron Paul, I think that you missed that earlier. I believe Tracy said that they actually completely lost all connections with them. Am I correct, Josh?
Yeah, Tracy said that they've kind of disbanded. The gentleman who was on Tracy's show a week or two ago was caught stealing documents or something to that effect, and they realized that their effort is hurting the individuals more so than helping the cause. So I guess, according to what Tracy was telling us, that they have disbanded. Which is quite an interesting turn of events, by the way.
I remember everyone kind of just like fighting for them and saying that everything was good from those guys. And then it was We the People Network that was the bad guys, and Lawyers for Ron Paul were good, but there's some ulterior motives. And I just think people need to stop worrying about these things that we can't control and focus on the delegates, protecting the delegates, getting them down to Florida and get them to vote their conscience, period. Because we can have all the side shows you want, but the main goal is getting the largest number of delegates down there and just winning that way.
Well, I think that brings up an interesting point, too, in this idea that everybody in the liberty movement has to agree with each other. I find it so, interesting is the wrong word for it, but I find it interesting when here's an organization or a movement that talks about the individual, yet anybody who has an individual opinion is seen to be shunned or classified as an outsider or has to, you know, do some sort of repentant activity in order to get back into the good graces with the movement. I think if the movement's going to grow, we need to realize what Tima was saying. This is going to be from people of all different political backgrounds, all different religious beliefs, all different economic stripes, all different everything. I mean, it's going to take a collective of individuals. And if we're not going to have a collective of individuals and we're just going to have a collective for the collective, then exactly what we're doing is creating a Borg. I don't want to be the Borg for all you Trekkies. We need to create a collective of individuals and embrace the differences. The Founding Fathers fought like cats and dogs, but they still agreed on the basic principles of liberty, freedom, life, pursuit of happiness. If we can agree on those things, then we can argue about the other stuff later. What do you say, Julie?
I actually have to go right now. I just left a message. But I have to go back to work. But it was cool hanging out with you guys. Good night.
See you later. Somebody was bringing up about what do we think about ACTA being shut down in the UK, and I think that's great. I think that it's just another step because if the Eurozone doesn't follow it, all those little countries that did sign on technically are still bound to it, but I think that it's going to have little if no effect to any of it because if the EU doesn't follow it, the majority of countries are not going to persecute anything for them for not abiding by those laws. So I don't think that it's going to have a huge ramification on if your country that you live in did sign it. I hope that we don't sign it. I know that Obama was talking about how he wanted to sign it, but I think that we can push it down enough to where Obama or whoever it is that's in charge of signing it won't sign it.
Well, I think so too. And the thing we have to worry about is a secondary bill. They have a tendency to defeat one, and then everybody gets happy because we had a defeat, and yay, victory is ours. And then the next thing you know, they're passing a similarly worded bill, and everybody seems to ignore it, and there's no outcry about it because everybody's still celebrating the victory we had 2 weeks ago. So you have to keep an eye on the coming bills, not just the ones that get the major national attention.
All right. All right, it's so great to have everybody here. We just feel that at this point it'd be great to maybe open up the floor to go ahead and allow people to ask a question. Please let's keep this professional. Let's not abuse this because, we can't shut this down. So we have somebody up here. I don't know if hopefully he'll have a good question here to go ahead and start us off with. And all right, so I guess he didn't come on. Oh, there he is. Oh, maybe not.
Okay, well, I don't know what happened to that guy, but I'll go ahead and start with the question here. Kadosha, what do you think is going to be happening in Nebraska? Have you heard anything from there yet?
I'm sorry, I missed your question. I heard, what do you think?
About Nebraska, have you heard anything from there yet? And will you be live streaming Nebraska?
Yeah, the team will be going to Nebraska next week to live stream it. It's a little questionability of if we can actually live stream it or if we'll have to secretly record undercover like we did it in Arkansas. Hopefully we'll be able to live stream. So we'll see for sure what happens, but we are going. I've heard that there's going to be some craziness there. There's a blog up. I'll have to find the link again. But there's a blog trying to detail all the plans about what the Ron Paul people are going to do and how they're going to take it over and all this stuff. I don't know how someone got that detailed information from them because they would think you wouldn't want to release that, Yeah. So I think it'll be a pretty interesting time.
And if anybody wants to come up here and ask a question, if you press the start broadcasting button up in the top left of the screen, you'll be able to hearing an echo now. I don't even know where it's coming from. All right, Chappie has a question.
Hello, all.
Hello.
My question for you guys, I love you guys, by the way, let me say. My question for everybody up here is, what's the biggest issue for you? Foreign policy, the drug war, or monetary policy?
I'll go first. For me, the answer for me would be none of the above. And I think the reason for that is not that it's not a bad question or the issues aren't important. I think they're all vitally important. But I think sometimes they get us so focused on one issue that they allow us a window of opportunity to have a liberty movement without really actually having to go for liberty. I think the most important issue to me right now is the Constitution and the liberty and freedom in which it represents. And when we take care of that issue, it default takes care of all those other issues. And I think that's why there's so much focus away from the core issue. So for me, that's my answer.
What do you think, Matt?
Can you repeat the whole question? He was kind of choppy when Chappie was talking.
I don't know if we got that whole question. He was basically asking. There you go. Go ahead, Chappie. Reiterate.
So I like that answer, Josh Tolley.
Thank you.
It's definitely a all-inclusive answer, I'd say, and I really like that. I was wondering, what's the biggest issue that people have right now? If we could solve them, because this is a work in progress, I see, because we have so many things that are messed up in our world right now.
Are you talking the biggest issue they have with Ron Paul or with our government
Biggest issue with the way things are right now, like the drug war, the foreign policy, the monetary policy?
I think foreign policy and monetary policy, but I believe, honestly, that monetary policy is what will destroy America if it's not changed. I have a lot of family in the banking fields, and they all say that they can see the end of the dollar as soon as 9 months if we continue down the same path of just overspending, more debt, more wars. Monetary policy is everything. If you cannot change the monetary policy, the wars don't really matter as much. Yes, it is bad, like for the loss of life and stuff, and it's bad for our image, but monetarily that will be the destruction of America if we do not change and become a good fiscal conservative and actually start paying back the debt, or just completely letting it collapse and then having its own national like rebound. We're screwed. We're slaves to the debtors, basically.
Makes sense. And it sounds like, if we didn't solve that first, maybe I'm wrong on this, but if we didn't solve that first, there'd be even greater loss of life, or an even greater negative to what we have, and than what we have now.
All right, T-Mar, did you get that question this time? You want to go ahead and answer him?
If somebody could repeat the question, got a little preoccupied there for a minute. What was the question?
What's the most pressing issue you think to the American people right now?
The most pressing issue for the American people, I would say it would be changing the guard. Because it is the folk that we send to represent us that we have allowed to create this problem. Yes. So unless we change the guard, we will continue to repeat this never-ending cycle of Democrats screw us for 4 years, Republicans screw us for 4 years. Democrats then another 2 years, another 2 years. That is the most pressing issue. Now, underneath that, all of the symptoms. We got issues with the Fed. We got issues with the IRS. We have issues with jobs. We have issues with illegal immigration. We have pandering to special interests. We have all of those issues, but none of those issues could exist if we were to hold accountable the people that we elect and send to Washington. Yeah. So, I can't say that the most pressing issue for America is for us to stand up and do what we need to do.
Thank you, T-Mont.
All right. Thank you, Chappie.
And Kadosha still has to answer that question.
Yeah.
Well, I was done with that, folks.
Yeah, it's kind of like Josh said, liberty really is the biggest issue, but and that kind of involves everything. It's if the federal government's going to do something wrong, then if the states could have the right to not follow what the federal government is doing, if they have the liberty and actually follow the Constitution. But on those specific issues, I think the monetary policy is the biggest issue because it really encompasses everything. If the Fed wasn't in the way of stuff, really, there would be a lot less, the lobbyists couldn't do their part like they do as easily, and there'd be a lot less corruption because there wouldn't be money there. So then it would be all open.
Hey guys, I have a question for you.
Go ahead, Josh.
What can we expect to come out of the Lawyers for Ron Paul case before the convention in Tampa?
It all depends. I believe I think they need to serve all of the state officials before the actual court case can be heard. So it all depends on if they can get all the paperwork out to the people that's needed to see it. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the judge will not see or hear the case until all the states that are affected by it have the paper served to the correct people in the GOP.
Well, do you think there's a chance that it's going to be intentionally delayed by the court system so it doesn't, it's not in time for the election, for the convention in Tampa?
I believe that there's also a rule where after, I believe it's 21 days, 3 weeks, that they have after all the paperwork is served, the judge, I believe, has to hear it.
Well, let's just say that everything goes according to plan and the delegates are allowed to vote their conscience. I mean, we're going to have a total mutiny at the convention, and you know that just about everybody there is going to vote for Paul.
Yeah, and that's why we need to support all of our delegates and alternates too, not just the main people, because we don't know what's going to happen. If for some reason we don't win on the first ballot, we have to be sure that we have our alternates there. That's why we've been fighting so hard, not only for the main delegates, but for the alternates too. Because who knows, if we get disenfranchised, say we don't get the victory on the first ballot, they kick all of them out. After that, they disenfranchise them, they basically boot them, and they say, all right, alternates, you're up. Well, if we don't have the alternates, we lose on the second ballot. So I'm glad that we've been fighting so hard for alternates and number one delegates too.
True enough. All right, guys, thanks for everything you do. We really appreciate your work here in Virginia, and good luck.
Thanks,
Thank you
Josh.
for the question.
Now, I got a question. Now, why wasn't I invited to this hangout, huh, Matt? No, I'm joking. I'm joking. My real question is about Matt's show on Wednesday. Can you plug that, Matt, and tell us what the first show is going to be like?
The first show, I'm going to fight as hard as I can to get Mr. T-Mott on there. I need that man. He has a voice that can keep anyone, their attention going for at least an hour, and it's going to be my first show. So next Wednesday, I believe, July 11th, it'll be on here. The exact same address, web address, all that stuff. It'll be up. I'll be talking about a lot of stuff, I'm guessing, in that first hour, but also I'm going to be answering a lot of questions, too, because I always get a ton of questions that I don't always get the chance to answer just because I get hundreds of comments on each video, so it's hard to always answer to everyone. So whoever actually wants to come on, I'll answer every single question they have for me.
Hey, Matt, is that...
Hey, guys, can I throw something in right quick? If it's okay, well, since ain't nobody saying, go ahead and continue. What I wanted to throw in is this. People keep asking me, why don't I support Gary Johnson? I have been saying since last October, I am in this, even if I have to write Ron Paul in, I will not change that. Can some of you speak to the Gary Johnson issue for me? Because I can't understand why people don't understand. All you do is split the movement. All you do is weaken the cause when you start to ship and switching gears. People need to learn the course. At least that's my philosophy. And if they change, I won't stop them, but they need to respect my choices. I just want to hear what you guys feel about
it.
I agree. I think that Gary Johnson might be a great candidate, but right now he's the lesser of two evils, just because, and you can't really call him evil, but he's not the best candidate for the job. I believe that Ron Paul is the number one guy for the job, plain and simple. I like Gary Johnson on many, many issues. He's very close to Ron Paul, but I do not trust his foreign policy. His foreign policy is just too vague when it comes to humanitarian wars. Who knows what he's going to consider a humanitarian war? Maybe we need to go save this oil because these people are drowning in oil, so we need to go over to Iraq where they just found this huge reservoir of oil. We need to save them from their oil. So we don't know what his definition would be. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm just saying that I don't trust him on his foreign policy. And Ron Paul is the one person that we need to rally around because this is his last chance that he's going to run. He's not going to run when he's 80. He's getting out of politics. He's done. He's given us more out of his life than anyone else has ever given in Congress, in Senate, any other former president. Ron Paul has devoted almost 40 years of his life to us, fighting for us. We've been throwing rocks at him. We have chastised him. We have just called him an outsider for so many years. And for him to stick through it and have that consistent of a voting record, we owe him one vote at least. We each owe him one vote come this presidential election.
I think before Tampa is way too early to even be discussing another candidate.
And you know, another good point too is a lot of people are supporting Johnson. There's a lot of money behind Johnson suddenly, and really, I believe it's just a distraction. It's something that they're trying to use to put Johnson's name out there like never before, just to try to give another option opposed to Paul, which obviously is something that the individual has to choose who they want to vote for. But me personally, there's no one else to vote for but Ron Paul. I don't care if I have to write in my blood and count it myself. I'm writing in Ron Paul.
Okay, next question.
Can I mention something that was said in the comments? You know, someone mentioned, this kind of goes along with what Matt was talking about. Someone mentioned how they didn't vote in Indiana, or didn't go to the state convention in Indiana because Ron Paul's silent. And this is, I'm going to go off on a little, like, soapbox here. But just like what Matt was saying, Ron Paul has stood up for us for 30 years doing what's right. We owe it to him whether he is silent on any kind of issues when it comes to this stuff or not. It's still our duty without any instruction to go to these conventions and go wherever we can to vote for him. It doesn't matter what he might say, even if he were to personally tell me he didn't want the nomination, which I would have been really hard to believe, it would still be my duty as a delegate to him to go and vote for him in Tampa, or go to wherever my state convention might be. You know, Nebraska's next week. Just because the campaign hasn't said anything about Nebraska, don't not show up to Nebraska because you think Ron Paul can't win. Then you're just going to be like the rest of the crowd that say, oh, I'd vote for him, but he's not electable. We go there and we vote for him, and guess what? Every time people go to the state convention in masses for Ron Paul, they win. Whether they have to fight the GOP not following their own rules or not. And we can win, and we have to keep it up.
I agree. Godfrey, is a question?
Yes. Oh, we cannot hear you.
Are you on push to talk? If you are, make sure you hold down the button the whole time.
No, he's not on push to talk. He should be live. I think it's a problem with your mic, possibly.
Yeah, we can't hear you at all.
If you want to type your question, we can go ahead and ask it, unless you can figure out your situation with your volume or whatnot.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to type.
Yeah, go ahead.
We always accept sign language as well.
That would be great if we had an interpreter.
Vote them out. Vote out the people who are in power. If any of those guys assisted in it, vote them out. Go to paper ballots. Insist that we make some type of constitutional amendment where all votes are counted on American soil with an American company counting it. Having some George Soros-owned company over in Spain counting our votes, it's not right.
What's the famous saying? You won the vote, but I won the count. Joseph Stalin.
No, he said it doesn't matter who really votes. What truly matters is who counts the votes. I mean, it's not verbatim, but it's pretty close to what he said.
Okay. Thank you for the question.
Anyone else have any other questions? Yes, we have those states. We have at least 8.
What's up with all the Mohawks, Kadosha?
Say what?
What's up with all the Mohawks in your family now?
I know.
Hey, Matt, I just want to congratulate you and thank you for your most recent video update. and I just wanted to take the opportunity for those people in the room and encourage them in watching your update about how Homeland Security has been now advised on how, or certain directives as to how to distinguish terrorists, domestic terrorists, and I'd like for you to elaborate on that if you wouldn't mind. And again, I encourage anyone in the room to look up Matt's most recent video. So again, I'm leaving, but thank you.
Thanks, Matt. I'm going to get the link right now.
Somebody asked, why is Gary Johnson going to be at Paul Festival? Well, actually, I just talked to Gary Johnson on Tuesday, and I did ask him that question. He said that he is a Ron Paul supporter, and he's going to Paul Festival to support Ron Paul in Tampa. Can I put
Gary Johnson, I mean, I've seen interviews. He says he agrees with almost every single thing Ron Paul says, so
yeah,
Gary Johnson's not a bad person.
There was one thing that he distinctly disagreed with Ron Paul on, and that was the Federal Reserve. He thinks we need to control the Federal Reserve more. The government needs to have more direct control, but I guess he doesn't want to abolish it like Ron Paul does. So that was a big one.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. I am Matt Larson 10, and there is a new study that came out that's called Hotspots of Terrorism and Other Crimes in the United States.